The mining colony was quiet most of the time. Machines worked day and night, breaking the rock, pulling out the ore, and filling the air with the smell of dust. The miners worked in teams, following the same tunnels every day, going deeper into the planet. At the far end of the deepest tunnel stood something strange. Thought it was a wall, but not like any wall made by hands. It was smooth, dark, and covered in lines that shone faintly when the mining lights passed over them. The older workers called it the seal. Nobody knew who built it or how old it was. The seal was there when the first explorers arrived, and they decided it was best to leave it alone. The rule was simple. Work near it if you have to, but do not touch it. The supervisors repeated the rule to every new team. The old workers repeated it too, their voices calm but firm. Some spoke as if the seal was alive. Others would not even look at it for long. Tom was new to the colony. He had only been there for 2 months. He was young and always curious. The first time he saw the seal, he stopped walking. The lines on it looked like writing, but he could not read them. When he moved his head, the lines seemed to shift, almost like water moving under glass. He asked an older miner named Ben about it. Ben only said, "Keep working, boy. You don't want to know what's behind that." Tom laughed, thinking it was just an old man's story. But he noticed how Ben kept his eyes away from the seal as they worked. Even when they had to pass close to it, Ben moved quickly, like he wanted to get away. The days went on. Tom worked hard, but his eyes always went back to the seal. Sometimes he thought he saw the faint light on the lines brighten for a second, like it was reacting to something. He told himself it was just the mining lamps, but deep inside he felt there was more to it. One day, while the team was taking a break, Tom walked closer to the seal. He stood in front of it and reached out, stopping just before his hand touched it. The surface was colder than the rest of the tunnel. He could feel the chill in the air. He pulled his hand back when he heard a voice. "Don't touch it." It was Mara, the crew leader. She was not old like Ben, but she had worked here for many years. Her voice was steady and serious. "This thing is older than our species. It's not a door you want to open." Tom frowned. "So you think it is a door?" Mara looked at him for a long moment before answering. "My grandfather told me stories. He said his father worked here before the colony was official. Back then, the seal was already in place. No one could cut it, burn it, or drill through it. He said the first people who found it disappeared. No one saw them again." Tom tried to smile. "Sounds like a story to keep us in line." "Maybe," Mara said, "but I don't care. We follow the rule. We leave it alone." Later that week, Tom noticed something strange while mapping a new section of the tunnel. In the rock walls around the seal, there were markings that looked like scratches. At first, he thought they were made by the drilling machines. But the more he looked, the more he saw a pattern. These marks were not random. They were placed in a way that made them look like a code. They curved and twisted, connecting like branches of a tree. The pattern seemed to point toward the seal. When he told Mara, she did not laugh. She studied the markings, running her hand over them. "I have seen these before," she said quietly. "They are in my grandfather's notes. He believed they were a warning, but he could never read them." Tom felt a shiver run through him. A warning for what? Before she could answer, the ground shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. The lights flickered. Somewhere ahead, there was the deep sound of rock breaking apart. The rest of the crew shouted in surprise. They ran toward the noise and found a section of the tunnel near the seal had collapsed. A large piece of rock had fallen away, revealing more of the smooth, dark surface. The seal looked even larger now, and the lines on it glowed brighter than ever before. The crew stepped back, unsure of what they were looking at. Mara's face was pale. "This was not an accident," she whispered. Ben crossed himself and muttered something about old curses. Some of the younger miners just stared, wide-eyed. Tom felt his heart beating faster. The seal was no longer just a wall at the end of the tunnel. It was something more. And now it was uncovered more than ever. He had a strange feeling that whatever it was meant to hide had just taken its first breath in a very long time. The supervisors ordered the area to be sealed off until they could decide what to do. But Tom noticed something as the lights were turned off and the team walked away. The faint lines on the seal pulsed once, like the slow beat of a sleeping heart thud, and for the first time, Tom thought he heard something. It was not a voice, not exactly, but a sound deep in his mind, a sound that made him feel both curious and afraid. He did not tell anyone about it, but he knew one thing. This was not the last time he would stand before the seal. The supervisors decided to close the lower tunnel for the rest of the week. They said it was for safety, but everyone in the crew knew the real reason. The seal was now more exposed than ever, and no one wanted to be the one standing near it. Tom could not stop thinking about it. Every time he tried to focus on his other tasks, his mind returned to the glowing lines and the cold surface. He remembered the strange pulse he thought he saw and the faint sound that touched his thoughts. When he finished his shift, he went to the break room where a few miners were eating. Ben was there, sitting alone with a cup of tea. Tom sat down. Across from him, Ben, Tom said, "What do you know about those markings in the tunnel?" Ben looked at him for a long time before answering. "I know they were here before the seal. My father told me about them. He said they run all over the rock around that place, like veins in a body. Some say they are a map. Some say they are a warning." Tom leaned forward. "A warning about what?" Ben shook his head. "If anyone knew, they would have left this planet long ago." The next day, Mara called Tom aside before work began. She had a small notebook in her hand, its cover worn and faded. "These are my grandfather's notes," she said. "He worked in the tunnels before I was born. He kept records of the markings he saw. I think you should read them." Tom opened the notebook. The pages were filled with hand-drawn shapes, curves, and lines that looked like the ones near the seal. Some had small arrows pointing to other shapes. On one page, there were words written in shaky handwriting. "Do not open the heart. The heart will remember." Tom felt a chill run through him. "The heart?" Mara nodded. "That is what my grandfather called it. He believed the seal was not a wall, but something like a lid. Under it is a chamber, and inside that chamber is something alive." Tom tried to laugh, but the sound felt empty. "Alive? After all this time?" "Some things," Mara said quietly, "do not die. They only wait." The colony leaders sent a survey team to scan the collapsed section. Tom managed to join them, saying he was there to help carry equipment. He wanted to see the seal again. The tunnel was dim, the air heavy with dust. The black surface stretched wider now, the strange glowing lines spreading out like rivers seen from the sky. Tom walked slowly along it, his eyes tracing the patterns. One of the survey machines began to hum as it scanned the seal. The technician frowned. "This is odd. The readings are not right." Tom asked what was wrong. "It's acting like the rock is hollow," the technician said. "But it's not rock. It's something else. Something we can't cut." While the others worked, Tom noticed more of the small markings in the nearby stone. They were almost hidden under the dust. He brushed them with his glove and saw that they matched the drawings in Mara's notebook exactly. The markings seemed to connect, each one leading to another, all pointing toward the seal. And in the center of the seal, the lines curved together into a single shape, like an eye, closed in sleep. A sudden cracking sound made everyone turn. A thin section of stone above the seal had broken away, falling to the ground. Behind it was more of the smooth black surface. The technician cursed under his breath and shut down the scanner. We're done for today. I don't like this place." But Tom stayed a moment longer, staring at the seal. He thought he saw movement in the glowing lines. Not fast movement, not alive in the way a person is alive, but slow, like the shifting of something deep beneath ice. When he returned to the surface that evening, he found Mara waiting for him. She asked what he had seen. Tom told her about the markings and the shape in the center. Mara's face grew tense. "That is the heart. My grandfather drew that shape too. He believed that if the heart opens, something inside will wake up, and it will not be friendly." That night, Tom lay in his small room, unable to sleep. His mind kept returning to the words in the notebook. "Do not open the heart. The heart will remember." He wondered what the heart would remember. The next day, things grew stranger. Workers in nearby tunnels began reporting odd noises, faint, rhythmic sounds almost like a slow heartbeat, echoing through the rock. The supervisors blamed faulty equipment, but the workers did not believe them. Ben came to Tom during lunch. "You hear it too, don't you?" Tom nodded. "I have worked here for 20 years, Ben said. "I have never heard the rock sound like that. It is coming from the seal." The heartbeat sound grew stronger over the next 2 days. Even people on the surface claimed they could feel it faintly under their boots. The colony leaders ordered more scans, but the machines failed each time they were used near the seal. Mara began making her own plans. She told Tom she wanted to go down into the sealed tunnel alone at night to study the markings before anyone else decided to break more of the rock. Tom agreed to help her. That night, they took a small light and went down into the tunnel in silence. The air was colder now. The heartbeat sounded steady in their ears. The seal's glow was brighter, the lines sharper, as if the whole thing was slowly waking up. Mara knelt by the markings on the wall, running her fingers over them. "It is a story," she whispered. "The markings tell of a war. Long ago, humans were not like we are now. They were stronger, faster. They fought something powerful and dangerous. They won, but they could not destroy it. So they locked it away. They built this seal to hold it." Tom looked at her. "And now we are waking it up." Mara nodded. They stood there in the cold, listening to the slow, deep beat of the heart. Tom felt something strange in his chest, as if the sound was not just in the air, but inside him too. Somewhere deep beyond the seal, something was listening. The days that followed felt heavier, as if the whole mining colony was holding its breath. The sound from the seal had grown stronger, no longer a faint echo, but a deep and steady rhythm that the workers could feel in their bones. No one laughed in the tunnels anymore. The air seemed colder, the lights dimmer. The colony leaders called for a meeting with the crew. They tried to sound calm, but their faces told a different story. One of them, a tall man named Roland, said the seal was blocking access to a rich vein of minerals that could be worth more than the entire colony's yearly production. They were going to remove part of it. The room fell silent. Some miners looked away. Others shook their heads. Mara stepped forward. "You cannot do that," she said. "It is not just a wall. It is holding something back." Roland smiled, but it was the kind of smile that did not reach his eyes. "There is nothing alive behind that wall. The scans show nothing but empty space. We will cut into it tomorrow." Tom felt his stomach turn. He wanted to speak, but the words would not come. The thought of the seal being broken made his skin crawl. That night, Tom could not sleep. He thought about Mara's words, about the markings that told of an ancient war, about the strange light in the seal's lines. He knew they were making a mistake, but no one would listen. The next morning, the crew gathered near the lower tunnel. The seal stood before them, black and cold, its lines glowing like the veins of some great sleeping creature. The heartbeat sound was louder than ever, echoing in the chest of everyone present. The cutting team set up their tools, powerful drills and plasma torches that could break through the hardest stone. The first sparks flew as the machines bit into the seal's surface. At first, nothing happened. The drills whined, the torches hissed, but the seal showed no sign of damage. Then, slowly, a thin crack appeared along one of the glowing lines. The glow brightened, and the heartbeat sound grew faster, like something inside was waking up. "Stop!" Mara shouted. "You have to stop." Roland ignored her. "Keep going," he ordered. The crack widened. The glowing lines around it pulsed like blood flowing through veins. Tom stepped closer, feeling the cold air rush out from the opening. It was not the dry cold of stone. It was the sharp cold of something ancient and untouched for ages. Suddenly, the seal split with a sound like breaking ice. The workers stumbled back as a wide section fell forward, crashing onto the tunnel floor. Behind it was not more stone, but a passage descending into darkness. The air that poured out of the opening felt alive. It carried a smell none of them could name. Not foul, but strange, as if it belonged to a place that should not exist. The heartbeat sound was no longer muffled. It rolled through the tunnel in deep, steady waves. Tom felt it in his teeth, in his ribs, in his mind. One of the miners pointed into the dark. "There is light down there," he whispered, and there was. Faint, shifting light far below, moving like reflections on water. The leaders ordered a team to go inside and explore. Mara tried to stop them, but she was pushed aside. Tom stood frozen, his eyes locked on the black opening. Something inside him told him not to enter, but another part of him, the same part that had stared at the seal for weeks, wanted to see what was down there. The first team disappeared into the passage, their helmet lamps bobbing in the dark. The rest of the crew waited in tense silence. Minutes passed. Then the radios began to crackle with static. "Team 1, report." Roland said into his communicator. Only static came back. Then a single voice broke through. It was shaking. "You need to seal this back up, now." Before Roland could answer, the radio went dead. Tom felt a cold hand close around his heart. He looked at Mara, and she looked back at him with the same thought. Whatever was inside was not meant to be found. Roland cursed and ordered another team to prepare, but before they could move, the ground trembled. Dust rained from the ceiling. The glow from inside the passage brightened, and a low sound, not a heartbeat now, but something deeper, like a voice speaking in a language none of them could understand, rolled out into the tunnel. Some miners turned and ran. Others stood frozen. Tom could not move. The sound felt like it was speaking directly to him, not in words but in feelings, hunger, memory, and something else he could not name. A shadow moved in the light below, huge and slow, as if something was stretching after a long sleep. Mara grabbed Tom's arm. "We have to get out of here, now." But before they could run, the passage below shifted. The light inside swirled, and for a moment Tom saw something impossible. Walls covered in the same markings from the tunnel, glowing so bright they burned into his eyes, and in the center, a massive shape like a heart made of stone and light, beating in slow, heavy pulses. Then the vision was gone, replaced by darkness. The sound of the heartbeat returned, louder than before. Roland shouted for everyone to fall back. The cutting tools were abandoned on the floor as the crew retreated up the tunnel. Tom and Mara were the last to leave, and as they stepped away from the seal, he looked back one last time. The opening was still there, black and waiting, the glow from the lines now stretching further across the surface, as if the seal's breaking had awakened the rest of it. The heartbeat did not fade as they climbed to the upper levels. It followed them, steady and patient, like something that had been trapped for a long time and knew that the door was now open. Tom understood then. They had not just opened a passage. They had removed the one thing keeping whatever was inside from coming out, and it was coming. The colony was restless. No one worked near the lower tunnel anymore, and even those in other areas could still feel the strange heartbeat under their boots. It was steady, like the slow beat of a drum that would not stop. The sound seemed too, live in the walls, in the air, even in the minds of the people. Tom found it hard to sleep. When he closed his eyes, he saw flashes of light, patterns like the markings on the seal, and shapes moving in shadows. Sometimes he thought he could hear whispers, but when he opened his eyes, there was only silence. Mara stayed close to him. She carried her grandfather's notebook everywhere now, reading it over and over, as if it might change. One evening, she called Tom to the storage bay where she was alone. "I found something," she said. She showed him a page in the notebook where the markings were drawn in a spiral. At the center was the heart symbol. Around it, her grandfather had written short lines in shaky handwriting. "When the heart wakes, the old strength returns. When the heart wakes, the enemies will come." Tom stared at the words. "Old strength?" Mara nodded. He believed humans were once different, stronger. We fought something powerful, something not from this world. We won, but we could not destroy it, so we sealed it away. If the heart wakes, it might give us back what we lost, but it will also call what we fought before. Tom felt the truth of her words deep inside. The heartbeat was no longer just a sound to him. It felt like it was inside his chest, matching his own pulse. The next morning, the colony leaders decided to send an armed team down into the opening. They said it was to search for the first team that never returned. Most of the miners wanted nothing to do with it. But Tom found himself volunteering before he could stop himself. Mara joined too. They prepared with heavy lights, oxygen packs, and climbing gear. The descent into the opening was slow, the air growing colder with each step. The walls of the passage were smooth, black, and covered in glowing lines that shifted like they were alive. No one spoke. The only sounds were the clink of gear and the steady heartbeat that grew louder as they went down. After what felt like hours, the passage opened into a vast chamber. The ceiling was so high, their lights could not reach it. The walls curved inwards, covered in markings that glowed in slow pulses. In the center of the chamber stood something massive. It was not made of stone, metal, or anything they knew. It was shaped like a heart, larger than a house. Its surface, dark but veined with bright light that moved in time with the sound. Everyone stopped. The sight pulled at them, filling their minds with strange images. Ships flying through black space, battles against creatures of light and shadow, cities burning, and humans standing victorious with weapons that glowed like stars. Mara whispered, "This is it." The heart. Tom stepped closer without meaning to. As he approached, the light in the heart brightened. The pulse matched his own heartbeat until he could no longer tell which was his and which was its. Then it happened. The light flared, and a wave of energy rolled out through the chamber. Tom felt it pass through him like warm wind, but it was more than warmth. It was strength. His body felt lighter, his sight sharper, his hearing clearer. The others felt it too. They looked at each other with wide eyes, sensing the same strange change. But the gift came with something else. In the same instant, Tom heard a distant sound. Not from the heart, but from far beyond, like the call of something answering. Mara clutched his arm. It sent a signal. Something out there knows. Before Tom could respond, the walls of the chamber shifted. Large shapes began to move in the shadows at the far edges. They were tall, with long limbs and eyes that glowed faintly. Their movements were slow but purposeful, as if they had been waiting for a very long time. One of the soldiers raised his weapon, but Mara shouted, "Do not fire." The creatures did not attack. They stood still, watching. Then one of them moved closer, its form shimmering between solid and transparent, like heat waves in the air. When it spoke, there were no words, only thoughts pressed into the minds of the humans that you broke the seal. The heart wakes. The war returns. Tom felt the meaning behind the thoughts. These beings were not enemies, but guardians, watchers, placed here to keep the heart hidden. They were warning them. What war? Tom asked aloud, his voice shaking. The answer came as a flood of images in his mind. A war fought long ago between humanity and a vast dark force that consumed worlds. Humans had been the deciding power in that war, wielding strength that no other species could match. But the cost was great. The heart had been sealed to keep both the power and the enemy from returning. Now the seal was gone. Both would return. The guardians stepped back, fading into the shadows again. The chamber grew colder, and the light of the heart dimmed, as if it was conserving its strength. "We have to leave," Mara said. "If the enemy is coming, the colony is in danger." They climbed back up the passage, the heartbeat still following them, now joined by another faint sound, a distant rumble, like thunder far away. When they reached the surface, the sky above, the colony was changing. Strange colors swirled across it, and small points of light flickered where no stars had been before. Tom understood. The heart's awakening had not only given them power, it had called something across the darkness of space. And it was already on its way. The strange colors in the sky grew brighter with each passing hour. At first, the colony leaders told everyone it was a natural event caused by the planet's atmosphere. But the people had already seen the heart below the ground and felt its power. They knew the truth. Something was coming. Tom stood outside the main hall, looking up at the swirling lights. They moved in patterns, almost like they were alive. It reminded him of the glowing lines on the seal, and the thought made him uneasy. Mara joined him. She had the notebook in her hand again, open to the page with the words her grandfather had written. She pointed to the second line. "When the heart wakes, the enemies will come. They are on their way," she said quietly. "How long do we have?" Tom asked. "I do not know, but I think they can travel faster than we imagine." Before they could say more, an alarm began to ring across the colony. People ran out of buildings, pointing toward the horizon. Tom and Mara turned to look. A shape was moving in the distance, huge, dark, and strange. At first it seemed far away, but it grew larger quickly, its outline twisting as if it was made of shadows and light at the same time. The leader shouted for everyone to take shelter. Armed guards rushed to the edges of the colony. The sky above the shape rippled like water as it came closer. Tom felt the heartbeat again, but now it was joined by another rhythm, slower, heavier, and not in sync. It was the heartbeat of something else, something far larger than any human. The shape reached the outer fields of the colony and stopped. It stood still, its form shifting so that it was hard to focus on. One moment it looked like a tall figure with long arms, the next like a mass of swirling mist. Its eyes were the only constant, two glowing points, pale and cold. Mara whispered, "It has been here before." The entity did not move closer. Instead, it sent out a wave of soundless pressure that passed through everyone like a deep wind. Tom felt it in his chest and in his mind. It was not words, but meaning, heavy, sharp, and cold. "You have broken the lock. The heart belongs to us." Tom's vision flashed with images. He saw worlds burning under skies filled with ships of the same shadow light as the entity. He saw humans fighting in space, their weapons blazing with the same glow the heart had given him. He saw the last battle, the sealing of the heart, and the retreat of the enemy into the dark. Now the enemy had returned. The guards raised their weapons, but before they could fire, the entity shifted again, becoming taller and more solid. It reached one long arm toward the colony, and the air between it and the people rippled. The ground cracked where its shadow fell. Mara stepped forward. "This is not your world," she said, her voice steady. The entity's glowing eyes turned to her. The pressure in the air increased, making it hard to breathe. Tom moved to stand beside her without warning. The heart's light flared inside Tom's chest. It was as if a part of its power had stayed with him since he first stood in the chamber. His sight sharpened, and his fear faded. The heartbeat inside him grew louder, pushing back against the entity's pressure. Mara felt it too. Her eyes widened as she straightened, her shoulders no longer heavy. The power from the heart was awake in both of them. The entity tilted its head as if curious. Then it stepped forward. The ground shook under its weight, but it was not moving fast. It was testing them. Tom looked around. The rest of the colony's people were frozen in fear. Only he and Mara seemed able to stand firm. "We have to stop it here," Mara said. "How?" Tom asked. She nodded toward the tunnels. The heart, Tom understood. The heart's power had awakened them, but its full strength was still in the chamber below. If they could reach it, maybe they could drive the entity back, or at least keep it from taking the heart. They ran toward the mining lifts, the air behind them growing colder as the entity followed. The sky darkened above, the strange colors fading into a deep shadow. Inside the tunnel, the heartbeat grew stronger. It welcomed them, its light pulsing along the walls. The deeper they went, the more their bodies felt lighter and stronger. When they reached the chamber, the heart was brighter than before, its surface moving like liquid light. The guardians from before were there, their tall, shimmering forms standing in silence. One of them stepped forward. The thought it sent into their minds was simple. The enemy is here. "You must stand." Tom and Mara approached the heart. They did not know what to do, but their instincts guided them. They placed their hands on its surface. The light flared, almost blinding. A rush of power surged through them. Tom felt it burn through his muscles, sharpen his hearing, and fill his mind with ancient knowledge. He saw again the battles of the past, but this time he understood the weapons, the tactics, and the strength humans once had. The entity's shadow fell across the entrance to the chamber. It had followed them, its glowing eyes fixed on the heart. The guardians moved to block its path, their forms solidifying into shapes like armored warriors. The entity stepped forward. The air trembled. Tom and Mara turned together. The power from the heart flowed through them like fire and wind. They no longer felt small before the towering figure. The battle for the heart was about to begin. The chamber felt alive. The heartbeat from the great heart was no longer a distant sound. It thundered inside the walls and inside Tom's chest. Light streamed from the heart in long waves, curling around him and Mara, wrapping them in warmth. Empowered, the entity stood at the entrance, its tall shadow filling the space. Its glowing eyes locked on the heart with a hunger that was almost physical. The guardians formed a line between it and the heart, their shimmering bodies shifting into solid shapes like warriors from another age. The entity stepped forward. The air grew heavy, pressing down like deep water. The ground cracked under its weight, and the markings on the walls flickered. Tom felt the power inside him grow stronger, matching the pressure in the air. He stepped toward the guardians, not out of fear, but out of something deeper, a memory that was not his own. He saw flashes of humans long ago, standing like he stood now, weapons glowing, facing the same kind of enemy. Mara joined him, her eyes steady. She nodded once. "We fight together." The entity's form shifted again, its shadow stretching along the floor like black fire. It raised one long arm, and a wave of cold energy swept across the chamber. The guardians held their ground, but the force made the walls groan. Without thinking, Tom raised his hand. Light burst from his palm, forming a shield that glowed with the same brightness as the heart. The cold wave struck it and broke apart. Fading into the air, Mara moved beside him, her own hands glowing. She sent a beam of light toward the entity. It struck its chest and made the shadow ripple, forcing it a step back. The entity made no sound. But the pressure in the air changed, sharper now, like the edge of a blade. It lunged forward, moving faster than its size should allow. The Guardians met it with spears of light, striking its limbs. The chamber filled with flashes as shadow and light clashed. Tom and Mara moved with the Guardians, their bodies guided by the heart's energy. Tom swung his arm and a blade of light formed in his hand. It cut through the shadow like fire through cloth. Mara sent arcs of light that curved in the air, striking from the sides. The entity tried to push past them, reaching for the heart, but the Guardians closed in, their weapons glowing brighter. Each strike against the shadow made it recoil, but it did not fall. Tom felt the heart's rhythm grow faster. The power inside him surged again, making every movement quicker and stronger. He could see the enemy's shape more clearly now, a body of dark energy wrapped around a core of cold light. That light was its true form. "Mara," Tom called. "The center." She understood at once. They moved together, weaving between. The Guardians, drawing the entity's focus. It swung its long arm toward Tom, but he blocked with his light shield. The impact shook him, but he held firm. Mara leapt forward, her blade of light striking at the core inside the shadow. The entity let out a deep, silent pulse of energy that pushed her back, but the strike had left a mark, a thin crack of brightness in the dark. Tom followed her lead. He charged, the light in his weapon flaring. He struck the core with all his strength. The crack widened, and the entity stumbled. The Guardians pressed the attack, their weapons striking faster, forcing the shadow to shrink away from the heart. The air became a storm of light and dark, the ground shaking under each impact. The entity lashed out in desperation, sending a wave of shadow toward the heart. Tom stepped in front of it, raising both hands. A wall of light spread out from him, stopping the shadow cold. Mara sent a final beam of pure light through the crack in the core. The chamber filled with a burst of white so bright it drove away every shadow. When it faded, the entity was gone. Only faint wisps of dark mist remained, curling and vanishing into the air. The Guardians stood still, their weapons lowered. One step forward, its form shimmering again. The thought it sent into their minds was calm but heavy. This was only one. Others will come. Tom nodded. He knew the truth of it. This was not the end, only the first battle. The Guardians turned their gaze to the heart. Its light was softer now, its rhythm slowing. But a part of it remained inside Tom and Mara, a gift of strength, sight, and memory. They climbed back to the surface together. The sky above was darker, but the strange colors were still there, moving slowly like a warning. People gathered around them, whispering. They could see the change in Tom and Mara, the way they moved, the calm in their eyes. Mara spoke first. "We drove it back. The more are coming. We have to be ready." Tom looked at the faces around him. Fear was there, but also something else. Hope. He felt the heartbeat still, deep inside. The old strength had returned, and it was not just for him or Mara. It was for all of them. Above, far beyond the clouds, something moved in the shadows of space. The enemy had heard the call. The war that had been buried for ages was about to begin again. The colony was no longer the same. The ground still carried the faint echo of the heart's rhythm, as if the planet itself had begun to breathe with it. The people could feel the change, even those who had not gone into the chamber. It was in the air, in the way the sky seemed sharper, in the way the stars above felt closer. Tom and Mara had become the center of attention. They did not want it, but no one could ignore the way they moved or the way their eyes seemed to hold more light than before. The strength from the heart had changed them, but but it had also given them a burden they could not put down. That evening, the leaders of the colony called for a meeting in the main hall. Everyone who could walk came. The hall was filled with voices until the doors closed and silence fell. Roland, the same leader who had ordered the seal broken, stood before the crowd. His voice was calm, but there was strain in it. We all know what happened in the tunnels. We all saw the sky change. Some of you may believe this is only a local problem. It is not. The enemy that came here was not alone. Others will come, and they will not stop. Whispers ran through the crowd. Some people looked at Tom and Mara. Roland gestured to them. These two faced the enemy and lived. They carry the strength of the heart now. If we are to survive, we will need more like them. But to do that, we must make a choice. Mara stepped forward, her voice carried without effort. The heart can give strength to others, but it will also call the enemy faster. If we do nothing, they will still find us, and we will be weak when they arrive. If we prepare, we might stand a chance, but the cost will be war. A miner in the back shouted, "Why not seal it again?" Tom answered, "We cannot. The seal was made in the past, by people who knew how. That knowledge is gone. The enemy has already found us. Sealing it now would be like locking a door after the thief is inside." The room was silent. The choice lay heavy on every mind. Mara looked at the crowd. "We have been told that humans were once the deciding force in a great war. We were strong enough to win, even against what waits out there in the dark. That strength was taken from us, hidden, with the heart. Now we have a chance to take it back. The question is, will we?" A long silence followed. Then Ben, the oldest miner, stood up. "I have worked in these tunnels for decades. I feared the seal. I feared the stories. But I saw what these two brought back from that place. I am old, but I am not too old to see the truth. If we do nothing, we will be destroyed. I say we prepare." Others began to speak, some with fear, some with determination. The voices grew louder, arguments sparking. In the crowd, Tom listened without speaking. He knew there would be no peace if they chose to fight. But he also knew that peace would not last if they chose to hide. When the noise settled, Roland spoke again. "Then it is decided. We will prepare. Those who wish to take the heart's gift will be trained. Those who do not will help build what. We need to defend ourselves. No one will be forced. But we will stand together." The decision spread through the colony like fire. The days that followed were filled with movement. Some people began training under Tom and Mara, learning to channel the light that the heart gave. Others worked to strengthen the colony's defenses, turning mining tools into weapons and building walls where none had been before. At night, Tom and Mara returned to the chamber. The guardians were always there, silent and watchful. The heart glowed steadily, its rhythm slow but strong. When they placed their hands on it, they could feel the bond between them and the great power grow deeper. One evening, as they stood before the heart, one of the guardians stepped forward. The thought it sent into their minds was different this time, warmer, but also heavy with meaning. "The strength you carry is the memory of your people. You are the first to hold it again, but not the last. The enemy fears this more than anything." Tom asked aloud, "Why fear us?" The answer came as images. Humans in the past, standing on battlefields in space, holding lines against impossible odds, their light cutting through the dark. Because when you remember who you are, nothing can stop you. The next morning, a storm of colors filled the sky again. But this time, Tom knew it was not just light in the air. He could feel the pull of something far away, moving closer. Mara met his eyes. "They are coming sooner than we thought." Tom nodded. "Then we make ready." By the time the sun set, the colony's walls were lit with new defenses. And the people were armed not only with weapons, but with the strange glow of the heart's gift. They still felt fear, but it was no longer the kind that made them hide. It was the kind that made them stand. Night fell. The stars above seemed sharper, and in the far distance, 3 small points of light moved against the sky. They were not stars. They were ships. Tom stood beside Mara on the highest point of the colony. The heartbeat was steady inside him, and he knew it was inside others now too. The enemy had returned, but this time, humanity would not face them as it was now. They would face them as they once had, strong, unbroken, and ready. The choice had been made. The war would begin again, and humanity would remember.